What's up, everyone? So today we have a question from Incognito Flamingo who says, how do you even get a job doing that, as in working for a drug market? What do they look for when trying to hire someone? Like actual IT certs, references? Kind of. But not really. So on the Darknet, you have a completely different system for getting a job. Obviously, the reputation part still applies, but your reputation, by and large, is an anonymous username, right? So at the end of the day, it's like if I work on a market and I am, admin ABC, what happens is I have a public PGP key that I write messages. I sign announcements with that key, with my private key, and then you use my public key to verify that I'm the same admin who's writing that. Now, as time goes, I use that key a bunch of times. It's public, a bunch of people have it. Now, if that market shuts down and another market opens up, if I go to that second market and I say, hey, I'm admin ABC, here's a signed message from me to you as the market of XYZ market. I'd like to be a staff member. They can look and they can verify that signed message and see, oh, like this guy really is admin ABC because I have that signed message. Now, admin ABC could have given me his creds. He could have given his private key with his creds. He could have, I could be law enforcement. But the chances of me just being a random dude are almost non-existent. So they know to some extent that, okay, this guy was on previous market. Now, if we add that up and we layer it, so like you're going to a Darknet Market and you're like, hey, what's up? Like I was admin ABC, EFG, HIJK, all these, 3, 4, 5, however many you have, work history that is proven, not by calling anyone like a normal employer would, but by, looking at signed PGP messages and seeing that they verify, then at the end of the day, that's how they know, like, you actually worked on these markets. Now, how do you get that first job? The first job is you get it 9 times out of 10, from what I've seen, is by being a criminal. Like, if you hop on there and, you sell drugs as a Darknet vendor, like, the credibility of you is like up here as a Darknet vendor, because they know, like, you don't have an issue breaking federal law. Like, that's what you do for a living, so your credibility is much higher. And that's why, they see it like that. And, that's the way you would go about getting it, saying, hey, listen, I'm a vendor. Here's this signed message. I'd like to, work on staff. And that's how I would go about doing it. Coming into the Darknet market as a complete outsider, someone who has no reputation whatsoever, and trying to get a job on a Darknet market would be super difficult. Because that's how the feds are going to work. They're not vendors. So like that's pretty much the sum of that. I'm not saying it wouldn't be possible. My first job offering was Handsome Market, and I was a vendor at the time, but it wasn't because I was a vendor. It was because I had, made like 5,000 or 4,000 posts in that community in a month. And I had done a lot as someone with no privileges to clean that forum up, kind of, and point out like who's scamming people, who's not, and educating users. So it's like, by contributing useful, valuable content that people want or need, I was able to assert myself as an expert in that area without even being a Darknet vendor or a Darknet buyer at the time. So, actions sometimes speak louder than words, and those contributions are what spoke louder, at that time to the staff. Glad I didn't, because everyone knows the story of what happened with Hansa. But my point is, like, you can make a big splash in these kind of environments if you know how to move, you know how to act. And a lot of that comes from different subcultures. Like, so for me, it came from like the hacking subculture and how things are there. So like old school hacking subculture. It's like, you hop on IRC and like you're on IRC with all these other dudes that, they're hackers. They've known each other maybe for years in some cases. Like, you be quiet, you shut up, like you hop in there and you don't talk, you don't say anything. And a lot of the more serious ones, like you're not even going to get what they call like voice permissions, like a +V, in IRC. Like you're not going to have, you're just going to go in there and be quiet and just pay attention and listen and watch how they talk and watch what they talk about. And that's how you learn. And obviously like that discipline is basically completely gone nowadays, with social media and all that kind of stuff. It was like a lot, like, there's a lot of like RTFMs being thrown around once you do get the ability to talk into an IRC channel. So like, it's like, well, how do I do this? And like you would get to a point where people wouldn't ask that. You just figure it out. You read the manual or whatever, you look it up. So that's kind of how you would go about doing that. So I hope that answers your question, and I'll see you guys in the next video.